Hey guys, let me get settled here. Welcome back to 2021. Had a good vacation. I think I set a record for consecutive days spent in my house wearing stretchy pants, but we weren't here to talk about that right now. Well, once again, welcome back to the studio here at our 3 o'clock live session. Good grief, and boy, y'all are ready to talk, aren't you? The chat board is wide open. So let me start reading through, and we'll go ahead and dive into these things. And don't mind my voice. No, I don't have COVID-19. I just have a mild case of Ebola, but I think we can make it through this. All right, Sarah Davis. Hi. Hi, Sarah. JT's asked me, can y'all do a Kawasaki Prairie 360 series of repairs? Sure we can. All right, guys, why don't we do a little bit of backstory on the Prairie 360, and I'll go about getting us one to work on. Any particular thing that you want to see repaired on that Prairie? Drop us a note, JT, and we'll start looking into it. Joe McQueen, I'm super pumped for this. Yeah. PR Moto Racing is asking me, hi, please explain the overlap. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me. Are we talking about a cam overlap? I mean, give me a little bit more information, and I'll see if I can get you an answer. Daniel's asking me, what mods can I do to my 400, make my 400 EX faster besides intake, air lid removal, tuned, and jetted? Well, you're heading in the right direction. If you're wanting to get more bang out of it, you're going to have to probably raise up the compression a bit. And I would probably suggest looking into doing a higher compression ratio piston, possibly from Wiseco. I'm pretty sure they have one for that particular unit with the standard bore. So all you would need to do is, basically do a top end job as far as your gaskets go, and then, of course, hone the cylinder and then put in the new piston and rings. Another thing you may want to look at is going ahead and getting a little bit more advanced cam as far as whatever its lift and duration, increasing a bit to get more out of it. At that point, I wouldn't go any further, because if you really start going past just a moderate cam and a little bit more compression, then you start having to look at potentially replacing the carburetor and or running a higher octane fuel, because it's going to pre-detonate with just running on 93. So be careful how far you want to take it. But just increasing the compression ratio by, let's say, a point, maybe a half a point to a point, and changing the cam up, that'll liven it up dramatically, providing, of course, you've already done the air intake, the lid removal, and gone with a different exhaust, so it'll flow out a little bit easier. Hope you all are having a good Friday. Yes, we are, Caesar. Yes, we are. And Joe McQueen. All right, PR came back with Honda F15X. I'm still not following what you're asking me as far as an overlap, so give me a little bit more information. RHI is asking me, trying to adjust the throttle cables on a 2006 Suzuki C90. They have lock nuts and what appears to be an adjuster nuts near the grip, but the adjusters are fused to the outer cable and they won't turn. Is this normal? I believe it is, but you should still be able to turn them. Now, they should actually turn. There should be a pivot point inside the adjuster itself. I would suggest probably spray it down with some type of lubricant, or not lubricant, some type of penetration oil, to where you can see if we can bust that loose. I'll take a look at just a stock C90 cable and make sure I'm right, and we can lead off next week, God willing, and I can tell you. All right, PR Motor Racing is the Honda Odyssey. Boy, you're going back a little bit. And as far as overlap, I believe the Odysseys back then were 252 strokes, weren't they? Correct me if I'm wrong. And about the only other FX15 I'm familiar with from Honda is the personal watercraft. I believe they made one for several years. Kind of an odd design, but was actually smart for the mechanics. The seat would come off, and then you could actually remove 2 sections of the hull where you could actually have full access to the sides of the engine. I thought it was a good design, but evidently it didn't catch on. All right, Joe's asked me, hi, thank you for all your videos on the, thank you for all your videos. I've got an 07 CBR 600RR. I installed a vortex lowering kit, lowered it by 1 inch. Can you recommend a lowered height setting for the front forks? Well, if you're dropping in 1 inch in the back, I'd say you can bring the front down by about 3/4 of an inch to keep your geometry roughly the same as what Honda sent it out the door with. I probably wouldn't go further than that. When you dive into a corner, it's actually going to try to turn in too much because your geometry is going to change. I mean, you don't want the back end to be too much higher than the front. So give it a shot at 3/4 of an inch. And if that still seems a little too much, then just drop it a 1/2 inch and see how that feels. It's really going to determine by your riding style as to how much is too much. We just don't want the front end tucking in on a sharp turn in. All right, JT was saying, I'd just like to see the common problems that they have. And they do have a couple of problems. We're referring back to the Prairie 360. But yeah, we can take a look at those. I mean, under all of it, it's a fairly solid unit. So yeah, we can go ahead and bring one in. All right, PR is asking me, it's about the cruise valve. All right, you're going to get me on this one. If it is that F15X personal watercraft, that's something I'll have to research, because out of all the machines I've worked on, I've only barely even touched an F15 before. And actually, I think it was an F12 that I worked on, and that's been more than a decade ago. But yeah, guys, if you would note that and send me a note later, and then I can look into what he's referring to with the overlap on the cruise valve, because now I'm curious about it. And yes, Sarah, I am having a good day, other than being a little congested and stopped up. Other than that, life is good. All right, Trey is asking me, what are the chances of getting some of the team green plastics from my Prairie 65700 on the website? Can't find anything but red or the hunter green colors. Almost done with the restoration, but I'm missing the handlebar covers and the radiators. All right, my little minions down in Florida, think we can do a little searching for Trey and see if we can come up, if that's available for what he's looking for his Prairie. Today's a Kawasaki day, evidently. Elijah's asking me, can he do a Yamaha Raptor 660 series, stuff like motorwork and carb work, please? Thank you. Another one we can put into the queue. I'm not afraid to look at a Raptor, the 660. It's a little bit of a older design, but there's still plenty of them running around out there still. PR is also asking me about an 05 CRF 250R. I think we're working on one of those right now, aren't we? No, we're actually on a 450, but a lot of that will bleed over from one to the other. What are you asking me about the CRF 250R PR Moto? Do I own Partzilla? No, I don't. I'm just fortunate enough to work for this company. It's pretty expansive and forward thinking, and they are not afraid. I'm telling you that much. The upper management, they've got a vision, and it's been fun so far, and I can't wait to see what the next 5 to 10 years brings, because there's a lot of stuff on the horizon that I can't talk about yet, but when it does happen, I'll roll it out to you. But no, I don't own it, but it sure is fun working for them. Will Thompson, keep up the great work. I shall endeavor to do so. And Mr. Sebastian, you are quite welcome. Cheers back to you in Montreal. Chump is asking me, the front brake on my 17YZ450F is soft after sitting a few days. What can I do to fix that? Have you bled it? That would be one of my first queries. And it's a 17, so she's 5 years old. It is entirely possible that the seals are starting to break down on the master cylinder, of course, up on your handlebar. Go ahead and push some new fluid through it, because I'm betting you haven't done so, and it's probably time to get rid of it. Your brake fluid is what they call hydroscopic. So in other words, it attracts water, and you may not realize it, but it may have ingested some water into the system, and well, water and oil, they don't mix, and that may be causing it to have that kind of soft feel. So my bet is when you start flushing this through, it's going to look like Coca-Cola, and that is a good sign that it needs to be flushed out. Now, have we done the YZ450F exact model? No, but there are several videos that we have out there that will go through the process, and it should, you know, excuse the pun, bleed over until the same process for yours. So, guys, if you would direct him to a good flushing and or replacing of the brake fluid on a standard front brake. Let's see if we can get him going in the right direction. Lino is asking me, when did you start working there? Whew, well, that's kind of a loaded question. Actually, I started working at the company, or for the company, when I was with a local dealership. And they took over that particular dealership, and I moved up through the ranks and ended up here. Long story to do that, and I don't want to chew up all our time explaining it, but I think that could be traced back to 2010, so I've been here for a little while. Your videos are very helpful. Thank you, Will. All right, Sebastian's asking me, we'd like to see some videos on the TRX 680. Guys, I hope we're making notes of all this. Eduardo is asking me, can you do a video on a Honda Rancher 420? You mean like this one? And when you ask me about a gear, you're talking about the rear gear housing or the front or the inside the engine. Give me a little bit more information so we can get that one on the to-do list for this unit, Eduardo. Roosevelt's asking me, how do you fix sputtering on a 660 Raptor? Is this during decel? Is it popping, or is it popping or sputtering during acceleration? Either one of those is probably going to be a problem with the carburation. Either it could be that diaphragm on top of where your main jet is. You may want to take a look at that first, make sure there's no holes in it, make sure it's sealed around the top of the carburetor, and then make absolutely certain that you've got the carburetor adjusted correctly. PR's asked me, please explain the timing marks if you can about the quad and back of you, please, and thanks. I'm sure we will get to that soon enough. I don't have a camera on the other side where I can pull the side and show you the timing marks, but we will make sure when we get back into shooting this particular unit that I explain the timing marks, which ones they are and what each of them do. We can do that. Jared is asking me, I have a 2001 Honda 400EX, just rebuilt the top end. Is it normal for the quad to get really warm fast, like 30 seconds to a minute of idling? I mean, it should come up in temp, but you're telling me at 30 seconds that it's already running a little too hot? It shouldn't be. I'd be a little bit curious, did you make any changes to the top end, or was it just a regular normal build, or did you change any of the parameters? If you did, and then it's going to be running a little too lean, that would cause it to get too warm, even just after a few minutes or less than a minute of riding. If you would, take a look at your plug. I mean, that's going to be your best indicator as to what's going on inside the engine. And you want to just see a light brown around the ceramic, and then on the actual metal around it where your electrode sticks up, you want that kind of be kind of a soot gray or a soot black. Now, if it's just beaming white after you've put about 10 or 15 miles on it, on the ceramic, and the metal almost looks untouched on around the electrode itself, you're running way too lean, and that may be causing you an overheating problem. And that will end up melting down your engine in very short order. So figure it out before you really start romping on it. Mark is asking me, hello, thanks for all you do. You're welcome. After the same OEM part number being on back order, is there an aftermarket to replace the kick crank boss or assembly from an otherwise mint 1983 XT550? Guys, if you would, down in Florida, why don't we take a peek for Mark and see if there's a piece that we can cross-reference for his XT. All right. Yeah, Glenn is saying, hey, John, still waiting on the Honda 420 coolant flush video. Thanks for other recent videos on that machine. All right, Glenn, tell you what, we're actually about to swap off this machine with my video editor next week, and we were going to go back to the 450. Tracy, let's do one more quick video on this one, do a coolant flush for Glenn, and then I'll swap up to the 450. You okay with that? All right, Kay, I have a 2007 GSXR 600. I changed the oil, but forgot to tighten the oil cap, and it fell out while I was riding. I think it blew a rod because it has a hard knock. Oh boy. Swapping a new motor in it, do I need to remove the front sprocket before I install it? There was one particular unit, I can't remember if it was the CBR or the Gixxer, where you actually had to remove the front sprocket or the sprocket to get it removed. It can't hurt because that gives one less thing to get in the way, because I remember a couple of different units, it can be tight getting them up into position. So I'd say yes, go ahead and pull it off. Oh, Young Fight is asking me, have you done any Can-Am Renegade rebuilds? How much would a full rebuild cost, rough estimate? No, I have not done a Can-Am rebuild on the Renegade model. I can tell you hours-wise, a good mechanic should be able to pull it off in right at 6, maybe 7, depending on how far you're talking about going. I mean, if you're just doing the top end, if you're talking about going down all the way to the crank, put another 4 hours on there so you're into the 10 range. As far as the cost, just go to the website and pick out whatever things that you are going to need to replace. Don't, make sure you hit all the different gaskets and O-rings and whatnot, because when you're pulling one down, you don't want to reuse any of that stuff. It's far too inexpensive and will cost you much too much in time if you have to go back there and replace a gasket that should have been replaced the first time around. Caesar's asked me, I have a 1978 Yamaha DT125. Cool. I replaced the expansion chamber to a free-flowing one. My question is, approximately how much bigger of a main jet do you think is an appropriate size? I'd probably go up, I don't remember what the size is. I'd probably go up by a factor of, not a factor of, but increase it by 5. So if it was, I'm just going to use the number here. If it was a 150, go to a 155. And then do a spark plug read to see if you're within the ballpark after about 5 or 6 miles. Trey's asking me, my 650 Prairie makes a burp or puff sound when it's cold, mostly at idle or at slow speeds. But once it's warm, I won't hear it as much. Valve adjustment, top end rebuild, should I be worried? Thanks, love you guys. If it's doing that as it's just warming up, I would consider it pretty much normal. You do want to take a peek at your valves, because that's one of your primary indicators that they are out of adjustment. If it's one that's really hard to start and doesn't really want to run right until it's completely heated up, which is somewhat normal, but as long as it's not cutting off. Yeah, by all means, go ahead and take a look at the valve adjustment, make sure it's within range. But no, I wouldn't think it's going to need a top-end rebuild or anything like that. Abdullah's asking me how to maintenance the Suzuki GSXR 1000. We've got an entire series on the on an '07 Gixxer 1000, which is almost identical for the most part to the '06. So go take a look at that one's playlist on our YouTube channel. Coming directly from under the airbox. Now, once again, it sounds, if you're talking about it's making a puff from that, that's telling me it's trying to blow past the intake valve. So yeah, take a look, make sure that it hasn't tightened up over the time, because as those valve faces wear, they tend to close the gap on the clearance for the valve adjustment, and that makes them not want to close all the way. So go take a peek at that. Will's asking, what do you have for your own personal ATV? Well, you'll like this. Well, I've had several over the years, but the one that I still have is a 2003 Honda TRX 350, otherwise known as a Honda Rancher. But prior to that, I had a, what was it, an 07? An 07 TRX 400EX. Joe's asked me, an 07 CBR 600RR should be concerned, 77,000 kilometers. Should I be concerned about the steering head bearings, suspension bearings? Well, it's something that you need to take a look at, especially with one with that many miles. We didn't do the bearing replacement on that one, but I did do a full bearing replacement and I think we did steering head and swing arm bearings on our Gixxer 1000. So if you would take a look at that playlist and just watch how I determined as to whether or not we needed to replace the bearings or not. It's pretty easy to do. You just want to lift it up on a jack under the engine, or under the engine itself, to where the back end is just hanging off, and then you just want to rock it back and forth and feel its pivot points and just see how they feel. I mean, if it all feels solid and you're not getting any rock, either torsionally or vertically, depending on which way the bearing is turned, then no, you're going to be fine. Same thing for the front end. Bring up the front end where the front tire is off the ground, and just bring it out and back to see, and side to side, to see if you've got any play. I mean, if you've got some play, does that mean the bearings have to be replaced? No, it may just mean that the head bearings just need to be tightened down a little bit. That may be all that's required. But with the rear suspension, most of the time you're going to find needle bearings in there, and when they start to wear, there is no tightening them. I mean, they're just done. So take a peek at that and just follow me as far as the procedures that I went through to determine that, hey, yeah, it's time for this one to be rebuilt. Now, the Gixxer, it was a bit of an extreme case, but it really made it possible for me to show, and where you could see and then hear it on camera, what you should be looking and feeling for and listening for. Kat's asked me, can I replace only the cylinder wall in an engine, or do I need to do the whole block as a set? If you're referring to a multi-cylinder engine where the cylinders are not separated, can you just sleeve one and get away with it? Yes, but I wouldn't do it. I mean, unless you're just trying to get the machine back on the road track or trail, then okay. But if you're going to go in and do one procedure to one cylinder, you really need to do all of them across the board, because that's going to make them more equal, so to speak. And I don't think you'd want to get your engine out of balance by only dealing with one cylinder, if all the cylinders are connected together. Now, if you're talking about like a V-twin where you've got a completely separate cylinder from front to rear, then sure. I mean, yeah, go ahead and just deal with that. But if they're connected together, I'd be hesitant to pull that off. What else do we have here going, guys? Carlos is asking me, why are the seals for a clutch brake master cylinder so hard to find? The only way to get it is by purchasing a rebuild kit. Well, the reason being, typically those kits aren't that expensive. And with that kit, you're not only getting the seal that goes on that particular piston, you're also going to end up with any O-rings or gaskets, and as well as that spring. And that spring's the important part, because over time, springs, they get weaker as they age. So the cost of just your time to go in there and replace just the seal, I mean, most of your kits are going to be 15, 20 bucks for the most part. I'd go ahead and spend the money and get as much new material in there as possible. And the pistons, I mean, I know it's the actual seal that's sealing it up, but the piston itself is going to wear down as well. So it's going to start to wander and walk inside of the cylinder bore. All right, no, that's all right, you're good. All right, Ronaldo's asking me something in Spanish. I didn't make a very good Spanish score back in high school, so sorry, Senor Struer. Guys, if you would translate that one, and I will get him answered. I can make out like every third word, but yeah, we'll get an answer to you. Levi's asking me, on a sport touring bike like a Yamaha FJR, how often should I replace my front fork oil? That's really determined by either the time, which the best way to look is in the owner's manual for that particular unit, and how much you ride. I mean, that's typically the two parameters that Yamaha and everybody else, they base that decision on. But I would think, just in my opinion, let's say if you put 7,000 miles a year, I think that's something that you should do every 2 years then, would be my suggestion. Because yes, it will break down, and as things start to wear in there, they start actually not stopping up, but causing more wear in all those different passages that are inside of the front forks. And it's really not that tough to do, and well worth the effort to have fresh oil in there. Ken is asking me, hi John, Happy New Year. Question for you. All right, let's hear it. I put new front axles on the front of my 550 Grizzly. Now it's pulling pretty much to the right. What could that be? It did not do it with the old ones. So when you say you put new axles, that you put new stub axles on there, or you put new CV axles in there, now it's pulling to the right? There's a couple of reasons. One, it could be out of a line. I don't know how far you took it apart to get it, to get those replaced. Make sure that none of those adjustments got changed. And the other thing is one of the brakes, or it'd be to the right, maybe catching a little bit. May want to take a look at that. Putting new, just the axles themselves, should it make it pull? No. I would be curious if they were OEM or if you went aftermarket. But no, I would look at these other two things first. I don't think it's your front axles. I think this just happens to be a weird, unfortunate timing event that, yes, you've done this and now you're more aware of what's going on the front of your ATV, and this may have been an underlying condition that maybe you didn't notice before. But check your brakes, and then also check to make sure that your alignment's where it's supposed to be. Start simple. Good grief. That was a quick 30 minutes, and there's 7, 8 questions I didn't get to. Well, guys, make a note of the questions. It looks like I didn't catch up with the ones from last week either, or 3 weeks ago either. But we will. Looks like we're going to need to start going a little bit further than 30 minutes as we start doing this more and more often. Well, listen, guys, just want to say thanks for coming in and spending a little bit of time with us, especially shopping here with us at Partzilla.com. Once again, welcome to 2021. I pray for all of us that we have a prosperous year, a healthy year as we go forward and plowing our way through. Once again, just want to say thank you, and God willing, I will see you again next Friday at 3 o'clock. Until then, stay safe. Have a great day.